It's a new edition of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice-monthly Bigfoot news update. What happened and what's ahead in Bigfoot research and news, only on the Untold Radio Network. The Bigfoot Journal is now. With your host, Mike Luci.
All right, cue that music. And we are back for our second installment of the Bigfoot Journal, your bi-weekly review of what happened and what's ahead in the Bigfoot world. If it's your first time tuning in, let me tell you how this works. We sweep the internet every other week, highlight the top Bigfoot news stories and reports, and share our findings in a fast-paced 30-minute package. Here's what we got on tap. Could Class A reports reveal that Bigfoot encounters don't happen nearly as often as we might think, or that we've been searching in the wrong places? But you'll find out why this could be a positive for Bigfoot believers. Chuck Larson is covering how a leafy green diet may have helped ancient apes stand upright and what this could mean about Bigfoot's potential existence. Plus, Tobi Crum's got the full scoop on this mysterious photo that's been causing quite a stir. Is it Bigfoot, a ghost, or something else? This is just a taste of everything we've got in store for this episode, so make sure you keep up because we're going to be moving and moving fast. Let's get rolling.
News and updates are now.
Hundreds, possibly thousands, of Bigfoot reports have been documented over the years. But how many actually reveal a clear-cut sighting of one? And if Bigfoot is in fact real, could this distinction reveal some hard truths about the actual frequency of Bigfoot encounters, or if we're even searching in the right places? Since 2010, the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization has published 1,772 reports in the contiguous United States and Alaska. As most of you probably know, the BFRO has three classes of reports. Class A, which describes a direct visual sighting. Class B reports largely describe sounds, findings, or other experiences that could be interpreted as Bigfoot related. Class C are non-first-hand accounts that come from sources who didn't directly experience the alleged encounter. So how many Bigfoot reports are actual Class A's? Well, the answer might surprise you. Out of those 1,772 reports, 745 were Class A, only 42%. What does this mean? Since Class B and C reports don't describe a clear first-hand sighting, they possess a large speculative element, especially if we only have that testimony to rely on. With no additional documentation, it's impossible to say how many are truly Bigfoot related. And with roughly 58% of public BFRO reports falling in these two categories, it could suggest that actual Bigfoot encounters happen a lot less frequently. These three lists show states with the top 10 aggregated and Class A reports, along with the highest percentages of Class A's. As you can see, the same 8 states show up on the first two lists, but that's not really the case for states with the 10 highest percentages of Class A reports. To add another layer of context, let's look at the percentages of Class A reports for those first two lists. Notice how 7 out of 10 states with the most aggregated reports have less than 50% Class A's. And since these states account for more than half of all publicly posted BFRO reports since 2010, these findings could corroborate how the actual number of Bigfoot encounters are significantly lower than what the raw data suggests. It might also imply we're searching in the wrong places. Let me show you what I mean. I divided the contiguous United States and Alaska into 6 regions: the Northeast, Southeast, Mideast, Midwest, Southwest, and Northwest. Here are the numbers for each region. So what stands out at first glance? How about the Northwest? It has the lowest percentage of Class A reports at 32.2%. It ranks 3rd in cumulative reports and just 4th for Class A's. The highest percentage of Class A's is in the Southeast at 50.54%, which also ranks 2nd in both aggregated and Class A reports. the Midwest has the second highest percentage of Class A's, while the Mideast is first in both aggregated and Class A reports. Having reviewed the regional data, let's look back at our 10 states with the highest Class A percentages. 5 of the top 6 are in the Southeast, 4 others are in the Mideast and Midwest, none are in the Northwest. So if this is any indication, instead of putting the Northeast on a pedestal, should Bigfoot researchers focus on regions like the Deep South, Appalachians, or Great White North? Maybe, but not necessarily. Aside from calculating the margin of error, there's a number of variables to consider, like land area, forest cover and acreage, along with population distribution, which could explain the Northwest's low percentage of Class A reports. But don't be discouraged by these findings. If there's anything to them, here's why this could be a good thing for the believer camp. Think about it like this. If there actually were 1,772 credible Bigfoot encounters since 2010, shouldn't we have more concrete evidence or even found something at this point? If you just go by Class A reports, it better fits the narrative of an elusive and rare creature that avoids human contact, especially if you go the extra step and filter out however many Class A's you think could be BS or just cases of mistaken identity. All the data we reviewed is available in the BFRO public database if you want to take your own deep dive. I could do a more comprehensive follow-up that factors in the aforementioned variables if you're all interested. Let me know in the comments. Otherwise, these findings shed light on some eye-opening realities on the frequency, reliability, and location of Bigfoot reports, which could potentially reshape our approach in trying to solve this timeless mystery.
Bigfoot received a huge honor earlier this month. Officials of Derryboro, Pennsylvania approved a proclamation that made Bigfoot their official cryptid. Derryboro has a population of 2,600 people and is located about 45 miles east of Pittsburgh, roughly 35 miles southwest of Chestnut Ridge, and over 60 miles south of Allegheny National Forest. The declaration was issued by Mayor Grant Nicely, whose goal is to raise awareness of the town's existence by embracing Bigfoot and highlight the region's seasoned history of high strangeness. Bigfoot encounters in this part of Pennsylvania date all the way back to the Iroquois stories of stone giants, which depicted beings that arguably resemble what modern-day researchers would consider Bigfoot-like creatures. As part of the proclamation, Derryboro now calls itself a Bigfoot sanctuary and states that any willful harm or capture of the species is punishable by law. It also declares Derryboro as the gateway to the mysterious Chestnut Ridge. Derry officials may also collaborate with the Pennsylvania Bigfoot Society to launch a Bigfoot museum where people can learn more about the history and culture of Bigfoot. Derryboro joins Whatcom and Skamania counties in Washington State, Sister Lakes, Michigan, Willow Creek, California, Harrison Hot Springs, British Columbia, Whitehall, New York, and Honobia, Oklahoma as the latest places in North America to pass laws, declarations, or openly embrace their local Bigfoot lore. In addition to Chestnut Ridge, practically all of western Pennsylvania is considered a hotbed for alleged Bigfoot activity. The Pennsylvania-Ohio border is rife with dozens of reports, while Allegheny National Forest in northwest Pennsylvania is considered one of the biggest focal points for Bigfoot encounters in North America. This is something we at the CARC experienced firsthand. Allegheny National Forest is where we recorded our Sugar Run howls during an investigation back in October 2020. Stories like these show that more communities are embracing Bigfoot's role in their local history. And perhaps more importantly, it's yet another sign of the legendary creature's cultural relevance holding strong in 2024.
Roundup is now.
All right, this is our report roundup. If they're out there, this is our part of the show that updates you on the latest Bigfoot reports from major databases and across the internet. This latest batch brings us all around the Appalachians, up and down the West Coast, and into Canada, so let's get rolling. We have 3 recent reports from the Bigfoot Mapping Project coming out of Pennsylvania, Southern California, and Northwest Oregon. Our first one reportedly happened on August 10th in Allegheny National Forest. The witness says they were hiking an ATV trailer around 9:30 p.m. while playing owl vocalizations to spook turkeys so they could find their roost. According to the report, the witness described hearing a 500-pound thing barreling through the woods. They claimed to shine a flashlight on the approaching figure, but only saw a light brownish hide without identifying any features like a face or limbs. The witness doesn't believe they saw a bear or deer and estimated the figure to be around 8 feet tall. This next report brings us to the west coast near Angeles National Forest, about 20-ish miles northeast of Los Angeles. The witness says they were with their father at a spot called Angeles Crest around 1 a.m. They claimed to hear possible vocalizations and knocking noises that allegedly had a noticeable wood-on-wood sound. The witness claims they recorded some of these sounds and said they included a file of the audio in their report. However, the report doesn't seem to have any attachments. According to the report, the alleged activity ceased after a few cars passed by where they were parked. We're moving up the west coast to a spot along the Malala River about 18 to 20 miles south of Portland, Oregon. The witness claims they heard a series of strange, unsettling noises while in their tent that included an intensifying sound of whooshing water, bipedal footsteps, and the feeling of something watching them from what was described as a, quote, higher stance than a regular human. The incident allegedly lasted about 10 to 15 minutes. The witness and their partner poked around their campsite the next morning, but said they found no signs of anything noteworthy. The witness acknowledges their report isn't particularly helpful, and even says some of what happened could be explainable, but believes the culmination of events was strange enough to warrant reporting.
We have 2 compelling Class A reports coming out of Virginia and Ohio. The first one describes one witness's detailed account of a road crossing they had on December 23, 2023 in Montgomery County, Ohio. Coordinates of the sighting's locations show it happened about halfway between the towns of Farmersville and West Alexandria, about 13 miles west of Dayton and 41 miles north of Cincinnati. The witness says she was driving with her mother-in-law around 10:15 p.m. in foggy conditions with light snow. She claims they saw a 7 to 8 foot tall figure with jet black fur about 3 to 4 car lanes in front of their vehicle that crossed the road in 2 to 3 steps. The witness returned to the scene with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law on December 26th, where they allegedly found and photographed footprints. Although the public report has detailed maps of this location, it shows no alleged footprint photos. This next report happened a little over 16 miles west-southwest of Fredericksburg, Virginia. The witness says he was driving with his fiancée and friend around 8:30 p.m. in low light conditions with misty rain. He claimed to see a tall figure cross the road about 40 yards from his vehicle and a few big steps with long swinging arms. The witness says it was dark in color and about 7 to 8 feet tall with humanoid proportions, but claims it was beyond the size range for a human. The report was investigated by BFRO founder Matt Moneymaker. He noted that the sighting happened near a power line route which intersects a cluster of sightings that occurred near the Quantico Marine Base.
This picture has been causing quite a stir on the cryptid subreddit since it was first posted last weekend. It appears to show a grayish humanoid figure that's standing inside the tree line. It's unclear if the alleged figure is sitting or standing, but you can make out what looks like arms along with the head and torso. The OP claims their mother took this picture in their backyard, who was unaware of the figure and says they live on the southern Washington coast. The OP definitely did their due diligence and posted follow-up pictures of someone standing in the same spot as the figure, the original uncropped photo, and a second picture of the same spot. Comments proposed a series of potential explanations from Bigfoot, white crawlers, ghosts, a statue, a homeless person, or a bear with mange. It's hard to tell what this picture shows, but since this supposedly happened in Washington State, you can't review a strange image like this without bringing up the big guy. So, now it's time for the You Decide part of the report roundup, when we break down a training photo, video, or other piece of potential Bigfoot evidence. Our goal here is to lay out all the facts, details, and other info so we can help you decide if it's the real deal. Let's see what Mike has in store for us this time.
All right, thank you for that great segue, Toby. So we've got an oldie but goodie for this episode's You Decide. For those of you who are seeing this for the first time, here's what the footage shows. It just seems like a panning shot of caribou at first, but if you take a closer look, there appears to be a large, black, human-shaped figure that emerges and runs along a small grassy ridge before quickly disappearing again. The figure is only visible for about 2 or 3 seconds, and with all the commotion from the caribou herd, it's pretty easy to miss. The clip comes from a 2001 documentary called Great North, which examines the life and culture of indigenous people living in North America's Arctic regions. This particular scene was filmed in northern Quebec, which was one of the documentary's key locations. Known as the IMAX Bigfoot, this footage recently resurfaced and has been making rounds on social media platforms like Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and even got some coverage in major news outlets like the New York Post. The footage has been debated for years, with skeptics proposing it could be a bear, a member of the film crew, or a local of the area who accidentally got caught in the shot. What's interesting is the figure supposedly went unnoticed by director William Reeve for 15 years until he saw Thinker Thunker's video that analyzed the clip.
Grizzly bear or a black bear giving chase.
After connecting with Reeve, Thinker Thunker was able to interview him about the footage. The interview covers why Reeve doesn't believe what they caught on film that day was a bear, crew member, or local. In this part of the interview, Reeve explains why he thinks their location and how the figure moved was enough to rule out a bear. Here's what he had to say.
Running on all 4 paws and in a more horizontal position, and this object that we're seeing is more upright and appearing to be running on 2 legs and not 4 paws, giving chase.
Reeve also rules out the figure being a film crew member, citing how everyone was accounted for when they shot this particular scene. He also dismissed the possibility it was a local. Reeve emphasizes their remote location, which he believes basically made this proposition an impossibility.
There were no strangers for hundreds of miles of...
Thinker Thunker does a very detailed breakdown of the footage, but I like to review a few details I found particularly noteworthy. It does look like the figure is a solid blackish color, which bodes well for the Bigfoot camp, although it's always possible this could be a potential illusion caused by a combination of the lighting and camera angle, but maybe I'm just being nitpicky. If we pause and zoom in right here, you can see the figure has what looks like a neck, which is a feature that's not typically associated with Bigfoot. However, Thinker Thunker downplays this detail. He doesn't believe it should be a disqualifier, since there's no indication that all Squatches have a neck, and like humans, Thinker Thunker believes they could come in different appearances, shapes, and sizes. If you truly believe this footage actually shows a Bigfoot, I'd be concerned about the figure's close proximity to the caribou. In this part, doesn't it look like some of the caribou are trotting dangerously close or possibly right over where the figure is supposedly hiding? If this was an actual Bigfoot, or another apex predator for that matter, wouldn't the caribou have seen or sensed it was there and just avoid that area? Or maybe there's something to the whole strength in numbers mentality. So that's everything I've got for this one, and especially since William Reeve sadly passed away in 2018, unless someone comes forward, I'm sure this video will remain the subject of debate for years to come. Make sure to check out Thinker Thunker's full interview with Reeve, along with his in-depth analysis of this footage. You'll find links to everything in the video's description. Hopefully I laid out enough details to help you decide whether or not the IMAX Bigfoot footage is the real deal, so make sure to share your thoughts in the comments. Otherwise, that about does it for this episode's Report Roundup. Remember, if they're out there, you'll hear about them, and who knows, maybe the next one happens somewhere near you.
Bigfoot in Science is now.
A groundbreaking study is reshaping scientists' beliefs on the evolution of upright torsos in ancient apes, which could shed light on Bigfoot's potential diet, adaptations, and evolution, while providing unique insights on its potential habitat and lifestyle preferences. A study published in the journal Science shows strong evidence that a leafy diet and life in the open woodlands in Africa during the Miocene period played fundamental roles in how ancient apes evolved upright torsos. Anthropologists always believed our ancestors evolved upright torsos to pick fruit in dense forests. The study used fossils of a 21-million-year-old ape called Motopithecus, the oldest documented ape, which found compelling evidence that instead of fruit and closed canopy forests, a diet centered around eating leaves in seasonal woodlands with broken tree canopies and open grassy areas may have facilitated ancient apes' upright posture. The study focused on a 21-million-year-old site in eastern Uganda called the Morto site. In addition to Motopithecus, scientists unearthed fossils of other ancient mammals, traces of ancient soils, and silica particles, all on a single rock layer at the site, which indicates these specimens all existed around the same time. Researchers used these fossils along with other environmental proxies to reconstruct Motopithecus's environment. They set up these recreations in 9 fossil ape sites across eastern equatorial Africa, which provided a large enough area for scientists to gain a clear understanding of what these terrains looked like during the early Miocene. The reconstructions revealed that grasses were abundant in this region 21 million years ago, contrary to the time frame of 7 to 10 million years, which scientists originally thought was the case. These findings indicate Motopithecus likely lived in open woodlands scattered with canopy forests composed of trees and shrubs. This part of Africa was undergoing huge topographical shifts at the time, resulting in regional climate changes which led to alterations in the region's vegetation. Moreover, scientists discovered that plants in this area were water stressed, meaning they endured seasonal periods of rain and barrenness. These seasonal shifts also indicate that ancient apes likely relied on additional food sources other than fruit, such as leaves. There's a few key takeaways from this study that could offer new insight on the potential existence of Bigfoot. It could shed light on Bigfoot's evolutionary timeline. And like Motopithecus, could this indicate Bigfoot potentially evolved in the woodland environment where it relied on diet and lifestyle that favored upright movement? Since the study implied that ancient apes adapted to open woodlands with seasonal changes, Bigfoot's ancestors may have followed a similar path as they adapted to North America's diverse environments. Maybe this could explain why Bigfoot sightings span across multiple types of environments, from dense forests to deserts and marshes. As a follow-up to the first point, if Bigfoot is real, could its bipedal stature suggest it relies on a diet where leaves and fruit play a much bigger role than originally believed? Researchers could also use these processes for reconstructing ancient environments to hypothesize about Bigfoot's potential lifestyle and habitat preferences. Studies like this show that scientific narratives are constantly changing, especially those that are centered around our evolutionary timeline. It's just another reminder that we might not know nearly as much about our ancestral origins as we believe. And perhaps this study's findings on primate anatomy could potentially bring us one step closer towards solving the Bigfoot puzzle.
Outside of humans, we don't really see any other animals practice the ritual of burying their dead, at least not directly. But that changed after scientists found the bodies of elephant calves buried in irrigation ditches in India. Now, if you ever hear people asking why we haven't found a Bigfoot body, and you believe it's because they bury their dead, then this groundbreaking discovery adds some plausibility to that explanation. The carcasses of 5 elephant calves were found buried on tea estates in West Bengal between September 2022 and October 2023. The bodies were buried up to 26 inches deep and appeared to have been placed on their backs. Although the calves' heads and torsos were mostly buried, their 4 legs were left protruding from the ground. Scientists believe the calves were between 3 to 12 months old and died from natural causes. The carcasses had bruising on their backs, suggesting they were dragged by herd members across long distances to reach the burial site. Although this marks the first time Asian elephants were documented burying their dead, there have been some cases where elephants were observed traveling up to 48 hours while carrying dead calves. Researchers believe the calf carcasses were specifically placed in the ditches with their feet pointing upward because it allowed multiple herd members to participate in the burial process. This particular theory is backed by the presence of dung and footprints from multiple elephants at these burial sites. Researchers also believe the carcasses' heads and torsos were deliberately buried to protect them from scavengers. Scientists also think the elephants used these tea estates as burial sites because of their pre-dug trenches in remote locations. Some researchers say these findings shed light on the complex emotional and social lives of elephants, while others urge caution about jumping to these conclusions, saying it's possible the calf bodies were buried in this manner because the irrigation ditches were too shallow. Scientists also believe these observations could help with conservation efforts because they offer unique insights on how elephants act in areas being affected by human encroachment. So, all this begs the question, if elephants are burying their dead, then why couldn't something like a Bigfoot, which are believed to be much smarter and have five-fingered hands with opposable thumbs, do the same? If animals like elephants are mindful enough to bury their dead in secluded locations to avoid humans, then one can argue this instinct would probably be second nature for something like a Bigfoot, which supposedly avoids human detection. Especially considering how there's evidence that ancient human species like Neanderthals and Homo naledi may have buried their dead, these findings could back the notion that squatches would be more than capable of this practice, which could even indicate that these creatures might be more human-like than we realize.
Bigfoot Spotlight is now.
Welcome to the Bigfoot Spotlight, where we take a look at recent and upcoming Bigfoot films, live streams, and events. To start us off, I'm spotlighting an episode from the Joe Rogan Experience earlier this month, who spoke with YouTuber Bob Gimlin. It was an interesting episode, which currently has over 600,000 views. While Bigfoot was what drew me to this show, Joe and Bob talked about numerous other topics, from shark attacks and crocodiles in the U.S. to predators in the woods. But back to Bigfoot. They also talk about Native Americans and Bigfoot, as well as the government involvement in keeping Bigfoot a secret. Up next, Bryce Johnson, Dr. Myra Mayer, and Russell Accord make their debut in the next chapter of Expedition Bigfoot. We are 2 episodes into Season 5, which premiered last week. The team returns to Northern California, which I'm sure most of you know has a very well-documented history of Bigfoot reports and encounters. Episode 1 sets the stage for the season by discussing why this region might serve as a breeding ground for Bigfoot. The team touches on Northern California's Bigfoot history and outlines which strategies and technologies they're going to employ. In Episode 2, Russell focuses on reaching a potential Bigfoot nesting site, while Bryce and Dr. Mayer discover possible signs of Bigfoot activity, which further fuels their belief that they are close to uncovering something significant in this region. Expedition Bigfoot airs on the Discovery Channel Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can also watch episodes on Discovery Plus, Amazon Prime, and a few other streaming platforms. Next, I have a couple of conferences to cover. First off, it's the first annual Natchitoches, Louisiana Bigfoot Festival, presented by Louisiana Bigfoot Hunters and Windhorn Productions. This family-friendly event is happening Saturday, September 7th from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the Natchitoches Events Center. The second conference I'm spotlighting is the 3rd annual Ozark Mountain Bigfoot Conference. Starting at 10 a.m. and going until 5:30 p.m., this event takes place at the Relics Event Center in Springfield, Missouri on Saturday, September 28th. Tickets are available online at everbright.com for $40, and they're going fast. So get them before they sell out. Tickets are $50 day of, if they are still available. Speakers headlining the event are Richard Taylor, Jason Kenzie, Robert Kreider, Shane Carpenter, Brian King Sharp, and C. Wayne Tothero. And finally, I'm going to spotlight a podcast that I recently recorded. This somewhat new podcast is called The Ancient Enigma Files. Host Joe and I had a great conversation, and he was a fantastic host. We talked Bigfoot, UFOs, and other high strangeness. The episode airs Monday, September 2nd, so if your Labor Day weekend is winding down and you have an hour or so to spare, check out this podcast. And that does it for this episode's Bigfoot Spotlight. Thanks for tuning in. Mike, take us out.
And on that note, it's time to wrap up the second episode of the Bigfoot Journal. So don't forget to do the whole thing with the liking, sharing, subscribing, all that. Check the video's description for more information on the segments we covered this episode. If you have any questions or a story you think might be newsworthy, shoot us an email or drop a line in the comments. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching and hope you join us next time. For Chuck Larson and Tobi Crum, I'm Mike Luci signing off. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
program is distributed by the Untold Radio Network. All rights reserved.